Can we please just talk about Derrick Rose for a minute? I guess continue talking about him.
This is the NBA Storyteller.
Derrick was a train wreck waiting to happen. No, strike that. Derrick Rose was a well-timed, scheduled train wreck that you could purchase tickets to witness.
Oh, that's just incredible.
This is quick. Okay. Have you heard the word gait? Gait. A gait is the simple way to refer to the way someone walks, the way an individual walks. Jamie Foxx does a hilarious impression of a few different people, including OJ.
Is that walk? Every time I see that walk, I think he did it. You see him do that?
Okay, we're up to speed how. For some folks, you can just glance at the way they walk, glance at their gait, and know they're not meant to be an athlete, let alone move faster than 3 miles per hour without one of these involved. There's the case of this kid right here. You know this kid's ability is going to max out pretty soon, and his physical ability is going to restrict how good he gets and how far he goes. And then sometimes you look at people like Kenny Smith, right?
Here's the thing, Kenny. You're about 2 seconds of me talking about the fact that your knees touch every time you walk.
And Charles Barkley.
I don't mind limping around.
And even Phil Jackson, good God. And you understand, in context, after years of high levels of performance, they have affected the way they walk. This is not natural. This is a result of some sort of abuse or neglect to their body. And I don't mean abuse like somebody beating their ass, but self-abuse. Self-abuse. Folks, what they do is they take advantage of their ability and neglect things like fixing their stride or sitting up straight. I'm not speaking out of experience, but in terms of professional athletes, these are things they should give a shit about. And anybody who says that this is the price that you pay for a long, fruitful career is an idiot.
I walk around and I limp and y'all make fun of the way I walk.
Yes, but it was worth it, right?
I wouldn't change anything about my life, man. There are consequences to what we do for a living.
They're a bald, fat liar. What it is the result of bad habits over a long period of time. Little bad habits. You could see Kenny and his inevitable fate with those knocking knees every time he walked onto the court. The story was right there, right in between those knees. And sure, as folks get old, things change. It slows you down, folks like Dennis Scott. But a close attention to your gait and the details of how you move and glide through the world are bigger players. You could look at a guy like Michael Jordan and his little miniature clone, Kobe Bryant. We could all probably do a good impression of them. There's people who make a lot of money doing impressions of basketball players. And almost instantly you recognize it because it's loose, it's fluid. It's kind of floppy too. It's kind of floppy. There's just nothing tense about it. There's nothing tense about the way these guys are moving, the way they cut, the way they go to the basket. It's very fluid, right? There's nothing hitchy about it. They're not rotating their hip through a click, you know? They're not rotating their joints through some sort of like... And then there's folks like LeBron who you see, he's got this upright, very tall posture, which is great, right? It's good. That's probably helped in his ability to not get injured. Sure, maybe when the mass roid detox takes place, it may be a different story, but for now, he's all right. In general, you can tell that a more thin, a slim frame with no tense or hitchy posture and a smooth gait seem to work out over the long haul. And the most important part of all, the part you're trying to control, is this variable, injury, right? And you can't control it all the time, but it is so dependent on the landscape in which it lies. If you work out and you go too far in a certain part of your body, well, guess what? Your body will tell you or show you to just stop. It will make you just stop. Okay, back to Derrick. From the second he walked onto an NBA court, from the second he walked onto a kindergarten court, his fate was sealed. Actually, from the second he learned to walk, his fate was sealed. He was doomed. But the remarkable part of his career is not that he won't make the Hall of Fame or that he won't ever be what he was. The remarkable part is that he rode that MS-looking gait for the one whole season he did, and actually won an MVP.
Too big, too strong, too MVP!
I don't know if he was born with his feet backwards, or if he should have had those Forrest Gump metal braces for a few years.
Derrick.
But it's clear that his gait was off from day one. He walks like one hip was installed 1 inch too high, you know? I mean, I imagine his hip sockets are triangles. It looks like somebody strapped a honey baked ham to his left ankle. It's just not even. His game was erratic. It was different. You combine this devastating walk with his general skills package, the way he cuts, the way he moves and gets around folks. And part of the reason this all worked was because it was so freaking weird. It was just a weird thing to watch. And weird is good in sports generally. If you can master what makes you different, that usually catches people off guard, and it takes a while for people and opponents to catch up. And he's smaller in terms of the NBA. He kind of has a stocky, wide frame. On top of all that ill-timed footwork and that one turbo leg, this is a formula for breaking into pieces. A lot of times you have pitchers who have to get the Tommy John surgery because their arm isn't meant to go that way. Derrick Rose basically needs Tommy John surgery for his entire body, because nothing in his body was meant to move like that. I mean, his body, after every night, every game, must have been screaming at him to just stop. And he knows it. The sad thing is he knows it. Or the brave part of all this is that he knows it, which is why he said things like this.
I think a lot of people don't understand that when I sit out, it's not because of this year. I'm thinking about long term. I don't want to be in my meetings all sore or be at my son's graduation all sore just because of something I did in the past.
And people tried to eat him alive for that.
Take issue with what he said?
Of course I do. That was stupid. Derrick Rose is a great player. He's a great kid. Love his mom. That was stupid.
He knew what was going on. Every time he got injured, he was not surprised. The only thing he'd do was fill in his injury bingo card. That's it. He knew. It was only a matter of time. And then, I loved when folks would get on him for not returning to the court too fast. There was a time in the playoffs where he could have played, but he wasn't quite comfortable to play yet. And
I know that I want to play, but also I really got to listen to my body while I'm out there.
People laid into him and ripped him apart, not knowing that this bag of bones, this Mr. Glass right here, was already giving his entire body to this sport, more than he ever should have.
How do you block out kind of all the outside noise? I mean, especially when former players were kind of like questioning your comments from a couple weeks ago, Charles, Shaq, guys like that.
So I know that it's a bigger picture than what everyone sees, and I know that in the future this is just going to be minor.
Who rushes these fragile people back into these situations? I mean, just because Granny's off the ventilator, are you going to make her retar the roof this August? He knows it was all written. Just look at his injuries. Look at all these infographics. All these different, well-designed graphics people made. And half of them are out of date. Graphic designers can't even keep up. It's crazy. Derrick Rose injuries are like the second most popular infographics to make since the food pyramid, which is the original infographic, by the way. And again, just on top of all this does not happen to an unlucky person.
Rose came down bad on his left foot. See him?
Or a person that should have had a long, healthy career. And on top of that, he was in the worst situation for a Mr. Glass. So this had to have sped up his body's decay. People like Derrick Rose and Greg Oden were not meant to play 10, 12 years at a high level. They got to this point in their life in spite of their bodies. And it was only a matter of time till it crapped out. You look at that one guy who got drafted and he had Marfan syndrome, and they didn't even let him play because they knew that the consequences could have been fatal. But when the consequences are just broken knees and broken hips and broken toes, whatever it is, they'll let you play. The NBA lets you play. It's not all an NFL problem. I'm not complaining here. Yes, they're millionaires and they have great houses and great sheet thread count.
And I don't even know how to sheets. I got good sheets. I don't know the thread count, but they good.
But it's weird. When an employer prefers that you create long-term irreparable damage to your body that leaves you partially handicapped or in chronic pain for the rest of your life on account of 3 games in the first round for a 6th or 7th seed team.
Isaiah Thomas is hurt.
And just watching these guys like these vets wear their disabilities like badges.
Imagine this, Kevin McHale, you see how he walked? Phil Jackson, you see how he walked? You see how Chuck walked? You see how I walk? But guess what? It was worth it.
It's odd thinking that that's what they owe to the game. These guys are getting shot up with cortisone as much as the next sport.
Mitch Kupchak called me in the office and said, I need you to play. You know, I come from the inner city of Georgia and from the slums. You paying me $8 million. They shot me up with cortisone. I played. That summer, I had ankle reconstructive surgery and shoulder surgery. But the casual fan don't care about that.
And just the general painkiller use and even the PEDs. We're not even getting into that yet. These guys are signing lifelong contracts to be in pain. And we sit here and we beat the drum like it's a goddamn gladiator arena. If the man says he ain't ready, well damn, he ain't ready.
So I really gotta listen to my body while I'm out there.
It's amazing to hear things like when T-Mac was on open court the one time, he opened up about the type of things he was even considering.
I've never said this to nobody. I've kept it to myself because I was playing on such a high level and for so many years. And when I had my knee injury, I was doing everything in my willpower to get back to that level. Naturally, I couldn't do it because I just didn't have the strength, I didn't have the confidence, and I just didn't believe that I was going to get there just doing it naturally. I actually considered getting advantage, and whatever that was, doing it illegally, I considered that.
Grant Hill, when he showed his foot and talked about his pain.
This is the cost of success right here.
Yeah, it's 19 years.
Look at that.
If I had known, I'd have put some lotion on my ass.
No, we let you slide. That's the skin graft.
These are not isolated incidents. But honestly, the Derrick Rose story should exist along some of those other inspirational stories. Those stories of people and kids overcoming their abilities. Like that time that autistic kid hit all those 3-point shots.
You caught fire. I just caught fire.
Or that other time that autistic kid hit those 3s.
Hoping he was gonna make it, and sure enough, he switched it on the first shot.
And then there's the one where the kid, he drained that 3-pointer. He was autistic. Anyway, here's a better example. It's a Rudy story, right? Even an Oscar Pistorius type story. Kind of. And if we frame it that way, we can see Derrick in a whole new light and stop feeling sorry for him or the ungrateful, entitled Chicago fan base. Derrick is a champion for the afflicted and the doomed. He overcame his affliction, but his story is different. His affliction is his ability. The hexagon hip, the gorilla leg, the gimp limp. I mean, even his jumping. It was always amazing because it was so odd. Whenever he'd go up to dunk, it just looked weird. His dunks blew our minds. It was just odd. He got up so quick, he dunked so fast. I don't think we ever understood them completely because it was just odd looking. This was part of it. It was part of the Derrick Rose package. And sure, maybe if little Derrick Rose would have had his joints snapped into place and his ankles reset and his spine lassoed into alignment, he would walk and move a little more like a healthy human. But if Mama Rose would have fixed this then, we wouldn't have ever seen this Derrick. Derrick Rose, his entire approach to the game and his entire approach to moving is flawed. Sure, he walks and plays basketball like a 5-year-old writes their name. Yes, he's blazed past the competition, but did it like a Formula One with refrigerators for wheels. And yes, his dominance was clear, but his game resembled a brick in a blender. Derrick is the classically flawed, where his ability is his downfall. In those cases, we hold them high. We revel in their moment of existence and cherish and celebrate the bright star they were, and not make the horrific, gruesome burnout the tale that we pass on. Derrick Rose is not a what if. He's not a what if story. He's a what the f story.